Hi,
Hello.
welcome to 2024. This is our Cooking Through the Calendar. I'm Jackie Denegri. I am the NEP, one of the NEP program assistants here within Fayette County.
My name is Caroline McMahon. Happy to be here with Jackie today, and we are excited to bring Cooking Through the Calendar to you virtually for those of you who can't make it when we do our demos monthly in person. So we're very excited to bring this to you and to show you the first recipe of the 2024 calendar.
Yay! The first recipe we're going to do for January is called Savory Winter Pork Stew. So let's get at it. So one of the first things you have to do, gather all your ingredients, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds under running water. And when we wash the produce, we're going to wash them and we want them to be as dry as possible. So wash them, use a scrub brush, and then dry them off. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, it calls for 3 large carrots. This was as big as we could find. And we're going to cut them into 1/4-inch circles or rings. So what I like to do first, I'm going to move some of this out of the way so you all can see, is I just cut the tip off. And I always do the pointy tip down. And then I'll just cut. And while I'm cutting.
So we went ahead and just prepped the veggies. They're all washed, scrubbed, and ready to go. Sometimes you can do that to kind of streamline the process if you want, if you have some time to chop everything so it's ready when you are ready to get started. That is an option of something you can do.
Yep. Here are some, I'm going to give you the reading tips and tricks. I'm going to pass this to her because these are our notes.
Yes. So this recipe, you'll notice in the title, we use pork. So this uses pork loin chops, boneless, and you want to get them 3/4 of an inch thick if you can. It calls for 2 pounds. And then my plate suggests selecting a wide variety of proteins, which is a nutrient your body needs for many, many health benefits. Meat and poultry choices should be lean or low fat when you have that option. So we're going to trim some of the fat on the ones that we were able to find before we start cooking the meat. So we also, another health tip, we have gotten low sodium chicken broth. So that is just one way to control how much sodium is in your food. If you start with low sodium, you can always add a little bit more salt later if you need it. But it is helpful to cut that out when you can. Choose low sodium options when you are cooking, especially if that is something, a health aid that your doctor or nutritionist has recommended to you.
Yep.
Once we start dealing with the pork, we are going to be sure to avoid cross-contamination. So we have our vegetable cutting mat over here. It's green. We're going to cut all of our vegetables and produce over here. And then we have our red cutting mat over here that helps us differentiate which one. That will be the one we put the raw pork on. We're going to use gloves just to do our best to avoid any cross-contamination with the raw meat. And use separate cutting boards. And then if you only have one cutting board, be sure to use hot soapy water to wash before or in between uses, switching back and forth between the raw meat and the vegetables. Yes.
So next, I'm going to show you how I chop the onion. There's so many different ways. Usually, I will go ahead and get this part off, the tip, and leaving the root. Because what I like to do is I will cut the root in half. Straight down, cut the onion in half. And then I have 2 halves, flat bottom. I will peel the first layer. That's one of the things. And then I'll show you, because what I tend to do with the onion is as I peel it back, it'll become like my handle, sort of. And then I follow the grooves of the onion to do this, because this onion calls for our onion to be, one medium onion to be diced. So I follow the grooves. I'll show you what I mean. I know you can't really see because this is a white onion and we're on video. But if you look at your onion, they'll have grooves filled in. So I always make a cut and go to the root, but don't cut through the root. Okay, and I do this, and I try to follow some of the grooves. You don't have to follow all of the grooves, but I do this. It's easier. I've seen some people that do this and then go sideways and slice it in. I'm always paranoid that my knife will slip.
That is usually only possible if you have a very good, very sharp knife.
Yes, because a sharp knife is a safe knife. And after I've made my grooves, then I will flip it around and just cut small. And there you see, it's already diced in little pieces.
Saves a lot of time.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to be chopping this or dicing this onion up.
All
You
right.
take it over.
And while Jackie is dicing the onion, I'm going to talk you through what I have in this gallon bag, which is the next step. So this is what we are going to toss our pork in. So you're going to add your teaspoon of salt, your half teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of granulated garlic, and then 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. So all of that has been added in here and combined. And this is what we're going to toss our pork in. So I'm going to set this aside. I have gloves on for cross-contamination safety. I'll move this out of the way so you can see. All right, so I've got some of our pork here, and what I'm going to show you how to do is trim the fat and cut it into chunks. So when I say trim the fat, you'll see that white piece is the fat here, and we're just going to cut as much of that off as we can. You're going to want a serrated knife, or you can also use kitchen shears if you have a good pair of those that you have designated for food use. You don't want to mix the scissors you use for cutting non-food items. Usually just to avoid some of that cross-contamination as well. So we're going to trim the fat pieces off on all of these. I'm going to turn it around. You don't have to get every single piece of fat on there, but just cut the large chunks off.
Good thing I'm wearing glasses.
Onions always make me tear up.
I love onions.
That's the benefit of leaving the root intact. The less you cut into the root, the less of the enzyme called allicin is released. That actually is what makes us cry when we cut onions. So here is a trimmed piece of pork. So you're just going to cut that off. So we're going to go through and do that for all 2 pounds on each line, and then we will chop it. All right, so now that we have our pork in our gallon bag, we have shaken it around to make sure each piece is fully coated. It's over here. We have our skillet heating to medium heat, and we are going to add, so if you look at your recipe, it says to add a tablespoon of olive oil and cook half of the meat. We have a large enough skillet that we can do all of the meat at one time. So we are going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to our pan that is now heating to medium heat. Once that is warm, we will add the pork to start browning. So there are 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And one way to tell that your oil is hot enough is to look and see if the oil has a shimmering appearance. It'll take a few minutes, but if you notice the oil is a little bit shimmering, it's ready. You don't want to let it to get too hot because it will release more smoke once we add the pork. So just beware of that while you're waiting for your pan. Our oil is shimmering, so we're going to go ahead and add our pork. This kind of also helps if you have any, if it's too hot, the oil might splatter. All right, so we have our pork cooking. We're going to check and see that it is still browning. So we're going to leave it and let it get nice and brown. All right, we have flipped our pork. You can see those pieces are nice and brown. So we're going to make sure they get brown on all sides before we are done cooking our pork in the skillet. Okay, so we are going to add our browned pork into the large soup pot using our tongs. Make sure they all get in there. More pieces. There we go.
Okay. And now we're going to this, we add our 3 cups of chicken broth. Low sodium. Yes, so you add 3 cups of the chicken broth, and that's 2. I'm gonna put it right here because that one's bigger. 2 cups, and now we need 1 more cup. I love this measuring cup because it's got it vertical where I can see the numbers and I don't have to keep looking to the side.
Very useful.
There. And also, we're going to reserve the rest, and it should be 1 cup left because we're going to add that here in a little while. And to this, we're going to add to this stock pot, soup pot, we're going to add the carrots, celery, and onions, which I have chopped and in here. And we're going to bring it to a boil over medium-high heat, and we're going to stir it occasionally just to prevent sticking because they tend to stick at the bottom. So everything's in here. It all out. Never have too many onions.
Totally agree with that.
There you go. There's the wooden stir
Just to get started.
So then we're gonna cook that for 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so I wanted you all to see this. We've got the pork, the onions, and celery and carrots in here. I had said bring it to a boil over medium-high heat, but it's bring it to a boil over high heat. And then we're gonna reduce it to medium-low. But I'm still stirring it occasionally, but it is starting to smell really good in here. Okay, we've got it boiling. So now we're going to turn it down to medium-low, and we're going to let it cook for another 20 to 30 minutes. Smells really good. Cooked. I checked, these vegetables are tender. So now I'm going to add the remaining cup of chicken broth, a can of the diced tomato and green chilies with the juice in there. Because all this is cooked without covering. So I'm going to stir it really quick, and then our diced potatoes. And there you go. So we're going to stir that up. And then we're going to want to bring it to a boil. So I'm going to turn up the heat from medium-low. I'm going to turn it up to like medium-high. Or high, actually. And then I'm just going to bring it to a boil, and then I'll reduce it to simmer on low. But yeah, here's what it looks like. And it smells great.
Okay, right, we are done. Our pork stew is ready to go.
Thank you for joining us this month. Be sure, if you make this at home, please send us an email and let us know how you liked it, what you would do different, if you added extra seasonings or just something, or let us know how fantastic it is, because we think it's great.
Yes, and each calendar has a QR code where you can submit comments to those who make these calendars. So if you have a calendar and you've got comments you would like them to know, feel free to send those in. Also, check the Fayette County Extension website if you would like to know the dates and how to register for our in-person demonstrations. We do them monthly, but if not, we'll see you next February.
Okay, see you next month. Bye.
Bye.